thanks everyone for being here. I'm going to do a really short introduction because I want to dive into the main stuff. But a couple things about how I kind of like to do these kinds of things. First of all, if you have your camera on, I super appreciate that. I can see all of you. I have 2 monitors. And then also in here, it's so much easier for me to see how people are responding to stuff. So I'm a solutions architect. I contract with Microsoft. I also lead a team. And then I also run the Accelerator training for people. Intro over. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go into kind of 3 techniques I see a lot of architects use to really build kind of flexible solutions minimally. I think the Power Platform has so much we can learn, and it takes a lot of time to learn it all. But if you just understand some basic software principles, you're going to go super far with very little effort. My goal here is to generally work less, and that's what I would love for all of you. All right, so we already introduced myself. This is going to be very interactive. There are demos. We are going to, I have some slides, but this isn't going to be a lecture. I'm going to be like asking some of you questions. No worries. If you don't want to participate, you can just ignore it. In the middle is usually when I get bored in a presentation. So in the middle, we have a surprise. It's going to be a choose your own adventure, and we'll see how many people stop turning off their cameras. I totally understand if you zone out halfway through. I do it all the time. One little thing is, thanks everybody for having their cameras on. I appreciate it. Other thing is to gauge kind of like the level of how much I need to dive into certain concepts. Can we please rank our Power Automate skills? In the Teams chat, we don't have a chat, but we have a Q&A. So we're going to totally hack that and use it here. If you could please do me a favor. In the Q&A, simply put a number for your Power Automate skills. Put a 4 if you're really good. Put a 3 if you're really good, but you have imposter syndrome, so the number 4 makes you uncomfortable. I know who you are. That was also me. Put a 2 if you've done some stuff, and then put a 1 if you're like, I haven't really done a lot in it. So if you could please put those numbers into the chat. I so far don't see any numbers, so I can't tell if that's my fault. Sarah, are they appearing for you, or is just nobody typing it in?
I can't see. I've just put a little hi in there. Can anyone see that?
I see Sarah's hi.
I can see hi and Anna.
Yeah, I can see your hi, Sarah.
Okay. Oh, that's unfortunate. I can't see anything. All right, can we do me a favor? Everyone whose video I can actually see, we're going to totally not use the chat feature. Just hold up a number with your hand, so I can say, all right, I got some 4s, I got some 2s, we got some 3s. All right, 2s. Okay, cool. So we more or less are fairly comfortable.
You should have an option new post. Can you click on that new post and you should be able to see more?
If let me see here.
On the Q&A, there's like an option new posts. Can you see that?
Oh, there it is. It popped up for me. All right, sweet. Oh, I see them now. I appreciate that.
Cool.
Whoever said that. Oh, Anna, you said it. Thanks, Anna.
Yes,
awesome.
no
Appreciate that. So, thank you for telling me that. There are 3 general principles to good architecture. There's actually like 10, but we don't have time. So we're going to go through 3 of them today. First one's performance. Obviously, your company is going to love you if you could save them time, but let's save your time. Let's make debugging for you go much faster. There's reusability, which the way I describe it is you work less because you reuse the same thing you've already built. And then the next piece is over-architecting. If you can stop companies from kind of going in the wrong direction, they're going to love you. And usually, if you can stop over-architecting, that literally means you architect less, hence less work. So I don't always think of this as 3 principles of good architecture. I think of it as 3 principles of working less. By the end of this, you should all think I'm lazy, and that's great. Good programmers are very lazy. They get it done quickly. It works well. Then they leave and go to, I don't know, wherever Franco spends his vacations. All right, so first concept is reusability. We are going to talk about this fake company called Trek or Treat to show this example. They're a company that does like, I don't know, hiking, kayaking, that kind of thing. They're an outdoor adventures company. Now, let's actually look at some of the code they have. So they have this model-driven app where they have a bunch of activities like fishing, hiking, and they have some instructors in here. And the instructors have certain certificates. For instance, we don't want you doing horseback riding, teaching, if you don't have animal safety. Someone's going to get bit by a horse. Same with some of these other ones, like truck driving. You can't be driving horses places if you don't have the certificate. So certificates, awards, really, really important. Now, in terms of how we manage these certificates and awards, what we actually have is a little flow. So now, how does this flow work? What happens is when an instructor is given an award, they get a text message, and oh, you can't see it. They get a text message, an SMS that says, hey, congratulations, you got the award. Very simple Power Automate flow. Instructor award is added, do some stuff, send an SMS. But we just learned certain awards they don't give anymore. Kayaking, way too expensive. We don't want to continue supporting it, so we want to stop people from getting kayaking awards. So a developer added this code called where we go to the awards API, we check if the award is still valid. If it is valid, then we're going to go send them an SMS. Great. So this code totally works. But we got some new code. We don't want the kayaking record even created. So don't create kayaking. If you try to create kayaking, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the awards API again. I'm in the way. We're going to go to the awards API again, and we're going to check if the award is still valid. So let's pause for a second. We got two flows here. They're both doing slightly similar logic. Does anyone want to raise their hand and say what they see as a potential problem here or something that could be better? I would love it if you could raise your hand. Sweet. Stuart Baxter.
Firstly, sorry I'm late. I got caught up dealing with another issue. I just caught the tail end of that part there. I think the potential issues are either conflicting logic, i.e. one thing doing one thing and one thing doing the opposite. And in terms of simplifying down, we could potentially use a child flow, for example, if we're going to call to the authenticate against award API.
Way to jump to the answer. Thank you, Stuart. Last time I'm calling on you. I'm kidding. That was great. That's exactly what we're going to do. I did not pay him to say that. The issue here, in simpler terms, is we have repetitive code. When code repeats itself, it's a giant red flag. Can somebody raise their hand and tell me, why is repetition bad? We all hear it's a best practice. Don't repeat yourself. Why not? Does anyone want to bravely raise their hand and offer why is repetition bad? Parvez.
Yeah, it increases your maintenance overhead, right? So if you need to modify this in the future, there's two different places you need to modify that piece of code in.
Exactly.
And test it
two
and all
different
the rest
places.
of it, yeah.
You have to modify the piece of code. Thank you. So more work for you. And also now you got to remember to modify it in two places. Let's say you fix it here and then you're like, oh, you forgot to fix it here. You have to go back and do it again. It's a nightmare. So exactly. We're going to do what Stuart said, which is, well, before that, yeah, repetition, giant red flag. We're going to do what Stuart said, which is we're going to create a child flow, a third flow that's going to do all this stuff. And then we're going to have these two flows at the top. Call this child flow. Now, can you give me a, yeah, Bilal, what's up?
Sorry, I raised the hand before and just wanted to raise it down. But yeah, we'll basically trigger the flow and trigger the child flow from the main parent flow.
Got it. Yeah, exactly. I'll pretend your raised hand is a high five instead. Yes, thank you. So it's very true. Give me a thumbs up if you come from a pro code background. Charles Sexton, I know that's you. I think there's a few other here that used to do like, I don't know, Java, web development, something else. Do we got any? Just Parvez and Charles? Okay. And we got Piotr. Okay, cool. And Bilal. Right. So as you know, or might have heard, in programming, we have this concept called SOLID. It stands for like single responsibility, open codes. It doesn't matter. Academic stuff. The point is we can use a lot of these principles in low code. Here, the L in SOLID stands for the Liskov principle, which is basically, in a very short summary, reusing your code, making reusable components. So let's try to look at another example. So here we have it in Power Automate, but you have the concept of reusable components in so many different places. So over here, I have a Canvas app. And this Canvas app is, remember when we were talking about awards? What it does is I want to double check that these people we are going to give awards to actually deserve it. So side, you got the truck driving award, I would go, I don't know, check their documents and I give them a plus. They totally should get that award. I come down here and I'm like, oh, Sean, scuba diving. Okay, I'll check that off. But look here, we've got this exclamation point. This exclamation point means that this award we have to be very careful about. We do not want people who do not know scuba diving accidentally getting the scuba diving award. If you've ever gone scuba diving with a very nervous instructor, I can tell you it was a very scary experience. I don't want them telling me this is the first time they've done it. So the logic we have to display this little exclamation point is in here. Now, all the Canvas app gurus are totally going to judge my code, and I totally get it. So in here, if we hop in and we look into this award, here is the logic. Don't overthink it. All this is just business logic. This just decides, should we show this exclamation point or not? But here's the thing. I need to reuse this code and have it appear here. So I need this icon down here also doing the same thing. This is a problem that we saw earlier that Stuart pointed out. Right now, right here, I have repeating code. So now I'm maintaining in two different places. I know there's a lot of Canvas app pros here. Does anyone want to quickly raise their hand and tell me what would I do in this scenario? I'm surprised Charles is quiet because I literally got this idea from his session, so that's so funny. Anyone else?
All right, I'm raising my hand.
Oh, you are? Okay, so we got Stuart. Oh, yeah. Charles, feel free to chime in on this one.
So you can use a named formula for it, a user-defined function. That would be an easy way to do it.
Exactly. So if we hop into here and we go up into formulas, I made one called isSpecialAward, and all I did was put all that nonsense into there. So then when I come over here, and then I actually go to my code again, and then I go to my warning sign, instead of doing all this nonsense, I could just come over here and then put in this. Come on. And that's it. And then I'm done. And I can do the same thing over here. Now, why do I know how to do this? Well, even though I went to Charles' session and it was awesome, I learned a ton about Canvas apps. This specific feature I found on my own. I found on my own because I knew to look for it, because I knew that reusability is so important. One of the things I'm trying to show you here is not that named formulas are awesome and you should use them, or child flows. You might not have learned about that feature yet. But the point is you can save yourself a lot of time as an architect instead of memorizing every feature if you know what to look for. And that's why reusability is one of those things that's just going to help you out so much, because you know to look for these things. I have people on my team way better than me at Canvas apps. However, sometimes they're lacking these architectural principles and they end up building solutions that aren't ideal. All right, now let me move my little thing over, make sure I don't see any questions. All right, we're good. Onwards. So we come back here. Next piece. Down. Let's scroll. Got through that. Oh, there's the concept of we can also use, not just in the examples I just showed you, is reusable code in one environment. You can also write reusable code that's going to live between other environments. This is going to save you a lot of time. This is how a lot of freelancers end up pretty much blowing through work really quickly. For instance, I think some of you might have seen this kind of thing before. A lot of people, David Wyatt, Gathias have presentations on this. I have an error handler flow here. Pretty much I pass in a flow name and then the person's name that I should notify, and then it sends them a message. Why would I build this? In any of my flows, I can wrap them inside of this scope, and then I can use this error handler flow I just built. So this ran, it just failed. Because this flow failed, what it looks like is that I end up getting a Teams message like this. Come on out. Like that inside of Teams. And then I'm like, oh, okay, so what is that? I'll go check that out. And then what happens is, hold on, it's not appearing here. Great. What happens is once I get this Teams message, I can go in and investigate it. And then I know, okay, there was a problem. I need to go look into it. And the point is I can share this flow across many different applications. That's the kind of advantage of when you start thinking in terms of reusability. Now, there are a few other examples as well. We don't have them here, but I'm sure if you've seen any of Nathan Rose's stuff, you'll know that the idea of low-code plugins are huge for that kind of thing. For instance, here, this name formula, great, we're reusing code in the same Canvas app. But if we think between projects, we can go into and take that name formula I made called isSpecialAward. We could put it in a low-code function, and now we can not only use it in the Canvas app, we can use it in the phone, we can even use it inside of a model-driven app. So now we can reuse that same thing and don't have to create it so many times. I personally think low-code functions are a little buggy right now from me testing it 2 months ago, so I'm not fully endorsing them at all. But I do think they're going to be the future if they really can fix all of that together. All right, onwards. Azure functions are a great example of that too. I'm not going to go through all of them here, but what I am going to do is just give you a little bulleted list. Is somebody have a question? Do you guys hear that? Okay, cool. It's just basically, here's just a quick bulleted list that whenever you hear these words, start thinking reusability, flows, custom connectors, JavaScript, AI builder, Azure helper functions. All of these stuff are giant flags that like, oh, maybe I can make that slightly more flexible. We're going to come back to this list later because this list can also destroy your code. Let's get excited for that soon. All right, over architecting. This is my favorite thing. So, solutions architects. So many solutions architects I meet. I'm going to go down just so you can see this graphic fully. So many solutions architects that I meet focus on only half of their job title. And the job title is architect. And they're so good technically. But we got to remember there's a different part to it, which is solutions. So in here, what I see a lot of very talented technical people do is they're like, all right, here's my goal. I need to get this goal. Like I need to either build this Canvas app flow, whatever it is. Here's my goal. And I'm going to use some reusability at the beginning. I'm going to use some named functions that Charles Sexton just talked about, or I'm going to use a reusable flow. I'm going to do a little more work, and it's going to be way easier for me. I'm not going to do this hacky stuff. That's great. That's going to take you very far. But we got to remember a key thing, which is solutions, solution architect. The beginning is solutions. So we got to think about what the business actually wants. And is any of the code you're building, is any of it actually going to bring business value? So this is a great time. And this is where I see people who are new to Power Platform do amazingly, where they stop thinking about the technology and they start thinking about what is actually our end goal here. Because a lot of times you can accomplish the same thing by just either not using technology or using a completely different technology, and it's much easier. Now, all of that sounds really cool for a TED Talk. Doesn't make any sense until I show an example. So let's see what I'm even talking about here. So if we hop back into our, go down, our example here, I got some pretty sweet Canvas apps here. So right now, I got this other one up here that I haven't shown you yet. Actually, I embedded it, so this should be easier. It's going to load here. And right now, you might be thinking like, okay, this is pretty cool. This is a resume assistant. So what I can do here is I can review people's work and I can be like, oh, Tony, let me try to be more inclusive here. Chica, do you have any friends named Tony?
I do.
Oh, would you say there's someone that shows up on time in meetings?
I don't have a work friend called Tony, but every time we get together for a drink, he shows up on time.
Okay, so we're going to change this up to super reliable for drinks, because that's what you need out of instructors, somebody you can drink with, especially during scuba diving. So we're going to approve him here, and then great, totally updated that. They're super reliable. And then let's give them, we got Chica's approval, so we're going to give them 5 stars. Very, very cool. So if you're wondering what the back end of this is, you probably got it right if you guessed that it's, oh, I got that stupid thing that I got to share. Let's move it here. You probably guessed right that it's a SharePoint list. So pretty cool. We got this thing over here, and then we've got this awesome app we can interact with. Here's my question for you about over-architecting. What is even the purpose of this app? What is this doing that SharePoint isn't doing for me already? so many times I see people asking me, like, how do I do this specific thing in Canvas apps? And I ask, what are you trying to do? They're like, this, and I'm like, do you even need Canvas apps for that? Could you have just added something simpler for it? In this case, if a client came up to me and asked for something like this, I'd be like, stay in SharePoint. And they're gonna be like, no, but we want a Canvas app. It's so pretty. Yes, it is pretty, it's cool, but more apps is more problems, more things I have to maintain. But enough about me. For you, it's going to take so much longer for us to add new features if we keep adding these other apps on top of it when we really don't need them. Let me sure I'm not. Power Automate question makes 3, but how do you prevent infinite loops if we want? Sweet question on infinite loops. We're going to come back to that at the end. All right. So this, I think, is utterly useless. So let's go back into here and let's talk about this scenario. Whenever people get a certain kind of, remember when we were talking about the awards thing? Let's think about this for a second. This is going to be an opportunity for a question. So Stuart nailed it here. But here's the thing. Give me a thumbs up if you know what a custom connector is, if you're familiar with those. All right, we got a couple. All right, so custom connector basically means that we could take this code, especially any kind of HTTP actions, we can wrap them up, and then what we get when we use Power Automate is this one slick action we can pick. We don't have to rewrite all of this code. Now, I'm going to ask the group who wants to bravely try. Yes, Stuart, what's up? Do you have a question?
Sorry, I put my hand up instead of thumbs up earlier on.
Oh, yeah, no problem. They should really change those colored icons. Microsoft Teams, I know one of your employees is here. If you heard that, here's feedback. So here, who can raise their hand and tell me, should we use a custom connector or not in this case? And I know I just said, please raise your hand, but you know what? I just want to kind of pick someone who's off camera and see if they hate me forever if I do this. James, do you think we should use a custom connector here? Totally no problem at all if you don't know. Or you don't have an opinion or don't care.
Go for a custom connector, why not? For obfuscate things.
So he says go for a custom connector. Thank you, James. Anybody else disagree with him or have a different opinion?
I might disagree with him.
All right, hold on.
The question I would have is...
oh, Stuart, yes, please, go for it.
The question I would ask myself is, will we use this custom connector anywhere else apart from in this child flow? If the answer is no, no need for a custom connector. If the answer is yes, go down a custom connector road.
Nice. Yeah. So in that case, that's probably a very nice, succinct way to think about that is like, how much am I going to reuse this? Obviously, James said, let's use a custom connector. I've seen plenty of people build these custom connectors. And some of them even say, hey, it's not that hard to build a custom connector. Yes, it's not that hard. But my question for you is, do you want 2, 3, 4 hours building this and then random hour periods maintaining this? Or do you want time with your family? So in this case, if this isn't needed, why would you, if it's not going to be used in other places, do you really need to build this thing? All right, let me show you one more example. So we need to take photos. Remember when somebody gets an award and we send them an SMS message? Well, one of the developers just said, oh, Canvas Apps has the ability to take photos. Oh, that's pretty cool. But the problem is we have a model-driven app. And in model-driven apps, you don't have that photo functionality right there. So does anybody have any ways that we can do this? They really want to take photos, something like that. Does anybody have any ideas? This is going to really be whoever mixes model-driven apps and Canvas apps is probably going to know the answer out of the gate. Yeah, let's hear it, Josh.
I'll go with a custom page just because I know you can do basically everything you can in the Canvas app with that, more or less.
Yeah, exactly. You can do a custom page for sure. Bilal, what do you got?
So my idea was that we have the feature to add a Canvas app within a model-driven app as well, so we can develop the component for the camera over there in the Canvas app and then add it inside the model-driven app as well.
Okay, so we got a separate external page idea where we could take photos there for sure. Excellent idea, Josh. And then Bilal just said, why don't we add that as an embedded Canvas app? So I believe you're talking about this, Bilal. So here I have this new award, Benicia got the truck driving award, and I'm going to show that there's proof of this. So some app is going to load, and there should be, let's see, oh, there it is. Cool.
Yeah,
you see that?
exactly.
Isn't this super freaky to look at? Does this look like I'm talking to myself? So here, in this case, yeah, I can take some photos, and then it gets done, and it's great. And then very, very, very cool. I've seen people build this. It's pretty neat. Yeah, so here's the thing, though. Why would you do this instead of just using the, like, upload file?
Oh,
Like, right? So here's the thing, though. You could also, the person who thought of this idea when I was originally working on this project, they didn't even use this. They didn't know this existed. All they thought was like, wait a second. Canvas Apps has photos and a camera. You know what else has a camera? My phone. So can't I just give the users 2 extra clicks? And if they're complaining about 2 extra clicks, well, it's very simple. I can give you your clicks, and then I'm going to have to spend so much time maintaining this instead of us focusing on something that can bring a lot more business value. Awesome. So onwards. Hold on. Why doesn't, there we go. Cool. So did I go through all of them? Yeah. What we can do now is I can give you another example of over-architecting it, but we're in the middle of the session where usually I get bored. So we're going to pause and we're going to ask the audience, like that show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Did you guys have that show in the UK, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Okay, yeah. We're gonna ask the audience here. So we're going to use this QA feature that Anna has taught me how to use, and we will get to your question, Boylan. In this, do you want me to show you another example of over-architecting, or do we want to like skip and jump to performance? Again, I can show you a couple quick examples. I think they're fun, but I also, if you're sick of this over-architecting stuff and you just want to jump into the tech, I totally get it. So please leave a question that says which one you prefer. I'll give you all like a few seconds to type that in. Thank you, Piotr, for typing. You might be sending an email to somebody saying this session is awful, but I do see you typing. So let's see. All right, I can't. Oh, there's a new post finally. Come on. Performance. One more example. Oh, all right. He wrote it in caps. So Piotr, I tell you what, I'm not going to do 2 examples. I'll give 1 example. All right. And I think you'll like this one. Piotr, have you worked with Azure Data Factory at all?
Not, but my friend worked with this, and he's an excellent specialist in this, and I can recommend his YouTube channel. I can post his channel.
His YouTube channel.
And we have like chat or no? No, chat is not enabled.
We have a Q&A, so you can ask, as long as you ask a question about him, we should be fine. So,
but I've never worked with
Data Factory real quick, and then definitely check out Piotr's friend's channel, because I'm sure it's very good. So, if you haven't worked with Azure Data Factory, it's pretty neat. If you give me a thumbs up if you've worked with SSIS before. Yeah, no, okay. SSIS. If you liked SSIS, you're not going to really like this. It's like SSIS, but much more limited. So have fun. Warning you right now. All right. So here I have this data flow, and what it's doing is inside of here, it's taking a bunch of activities I have in a SQL table, and then it is doing some fancy stuff. I'm in the way. It's doing some fancy stuff to do lookups. Don't overthink it here. And then it is, in the end, I just closed it. All right, it went away. It's migrating it to Dataverse. So pretty cool. Yeah, I would say in most cases, and why a lot of people haven't worked with it is because it's a really overkill solution for a lot of data migrations. So let's go into, here it is. There's the sync button I didn't show you. Here's my mapping, and I'm mapping like people's names, the activity name with the emergency responder for that instruct. We don't have to spend too much time on this. That's not the point. The point here is this is a pretty over-architected tool potentially for something for more simpler data migration. So let's discuss some other ways we can migrate data. Come here. Cool. So if we need to migrate data, do I have it down here? Here it is. We need to migrate some instructor records. We're going to take them from Azure database, and we're going to put them right here. So who can bravely raise their hand and tell me what they think are some ways we can migrate data besides Azure Data Factory? We got Piotr, we got anybody else? I want to make sure everybody had a chance. And I will. Nick Triggs, I know you've done data migration. Do you have any tool ideas for this?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, no worries. In this, if I want to migrate data from Azure SQL to Dataverse, do you have any ideas of how to do that?
Maybe with data flows.
Data flows, yes, very common, very powerful. Thank you. Does anybody keep your hand up if you have an idea besides the one that Nick said about data flows? Anybody have any? No. We got Stuart back in the house. All right, Stuart, what do you got for us? What else could we do?
Everyone's favorite data analysis tool, Excel. It's 3 columns. Pull it out into an Excel, import it in Native Wizard.
Okay, yeah. We're going to talk about that one for sure. So data flows, we could use Excel. I'm surprised nobody said Power Automate. No, has anyone here done data migration with Power Automate? It totally works. Yeah. So, and then do I have somebody else raising their hand? Yeah, Nick, back to you.
I was gonna say I know Power Automate has a connector, but I think it's premium, so it depends on who your stakeholders are, but that's what you need.
This great point. That there's a whole pricing thing we can talk about, but for now we're going to assume this outdoor adventures company is super rich because we built them this amazing Power Platform solution. All right, so I heard a few ideas. I heard data flows. We started with Azure Data Factory, and then we heard with Power Automate. Here's a quick thing, and Stuart nailed it on the head, which is slow down. We didn't ask a couple key questions. How much data are we even moving? And how often are we moving the data? Because what we could do is just hop into here, and then I don't need Azure Data Factory anymore, so I'm going to close that. We could just hop into here, into our solution, go into our, what do we say, outdoor activities, and do exactly what Stuart said, which is click the 3 dots, and then go into Excel templates, and we could just import from here. And then some people might be thinking like, oh, I don't want to manually import that. I see a lot of developers making these jobs that run, and they never ask how often they have to run. I would rather do this twice a year than have to build some flow that's only going to be run twice a year, especially when this is so much faster. Another prime example of over-architecting. And Piotr, that's the last we're going to talk about it, and we're going to move on to performance. All right, so onwards and upwards. The last thing to wrap this up here is, come on, slide. Yeah, I didn't talk about my favorite slide, which is this kind of teeter-totter that we're on. Do you guys use the word teeter-totter in the United Kingdom, or do you say seesaw? What do you say? Seesaw. Okay, you're using. All right, sweet. Well, so we say teeter-totter, and I think it's also more fun to say. So here, it's just this balance you're going to have to strike as a solutions architect. Are you making something hacky like we did earlier with reusable code, and then we try to, or not using reusable code, and when we make it reusable, we sometimes go too far. It's just a fundamental balance that you're going to have to deal with, and I mostly want an opportunity just to say the word teeter-totter. All right, onwards. So, performance. In here, we have this flow. All right, so we were trying to solve this problem of when a new, where are they? Here we go. When a new instructor gets added, or every single day, our instructors lose their certifications. Like they didn't keep up with it, they didn't study, blah, 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 blah. So every night we want to run this job and we want to check their credentials. Are they still valid? So like, are you still endorsed for kayaking and horseback riding? So when we run this and we get our list rows of instructors, we get data that looks like this. Come on, come out here. Boom, there. It looks like that. So like, here's an example record in here where, I'll move it over here. Here's an example record where we have Ahmed Habib. Here's his SQL ID. Here is, I don't know how long he's been at the company. So I've got an array, a list of all these records like that. And what's going to happen is I'm going to push them right here into this other child flow I have. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you. And what we're going to do is once we get into this child flow, we are going to loop we're going to go get their status. Like, are they still valid to teach kayaking? We end up getting the credential status. Are you valid? Are you not valid? And in the end, we're going to loop all of our instructors, give them the status, and then return that at the bottom here. This will be easier with an example. So, perfect. Here's our run history. Blah, blah, blah. All of our instructors came in from here. That's what they all look like. And then we went through and we added this variable into here that says, take the name, take the years at the company, blah, blah, blah. And in the end, I get this awesome list of all my instructors and their license status. The details we don't really need to get into here. What we need to get into here is look into the fact that, oh, right now what I have is this loop here. So a lot of you who use Power Automate a lot are probably sitting here and thinking, oh, loops, those are loops are cautionary, is what I can say. Even if you don't have Power Automate background, if you've just worked with software plenty enough, you will have seen this right here. Let me show it right here. A simple lesson that, I forgot to talk about that. Let me get past this. Loops are caution signs. That's all I came here to show you that. Is whenever you see a loop, you should be careful. So in here, what we can do is we have some options to make this loop run faster. Now, a lot of you are going to be jumping to ideas, especially if you work in Power Automate. Oh, I know exactly how to not use this. Let's slow it down. Let's start simple. Let's not over-architect. How do you make this loop just run faster? What's a simple way we can do that? Does anybody know off the top of their head? I know y'all know, but you're not saying it. All right, Piotr, what do you got?
You can turn parallelism for the apply to each loop if you not...
Exactly. You come in here into settings, and then boom, concurrency controlled on, bump it up to 50, and you're good. Here's a little pro tip. If you jump it past 48 and you're doing HTTP requests, it's going to crash and get mad at you. So I've had to keep it at 48. Side thing. All right. Yeah, exactly. We don't need to refactor this. Let's start simple. Also, let's get some easy wins right here. Right now, what Piotr is bringing up is this concept of concurrency. So that's the slide I have up here. Come on, where it is. Great. You see? Train tracks, concurrency. They're such easy wins. So here, we just talked about one with this loop. Going back right here, does anybody know a way we can concurrencify, not a real word, concurrency this thing right here? Anybody know?
Parallel branch?
Yeah, parallel branch. Thank you, whoever. I couldn't see it. I have too many screens right now that are up. But yeah, exactly. We do a parallel branch. So we just come into here and it's like, all right, I'm going to go in here, add a parallel branch. And it's going to take a minute to load. Come on, do your thing. Great. So you can pick whatever action you want. It's not that big of a deal. We're going to delete it anyway. So we got this. I'm going to drag this out here. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to delete it. And then down here under credentials, I'm going to go into settings. And then I'm going to select some actions where we're going to add this one. Boom. Parallelize. We just made this twice as fast because it's not waiting for the other one. Now, again, what I'm trying to show here is concurrency is not just like, oh, here's how you do it in Power Automate. It's just a general concept you could be aware of. If we remember going back to our code here, we have this Canvas app where if I click this button right here, it's going to take all the awards we have and it's going to go send them for processing. And this is cool, but let's take a look at the code here, what it actually does. If I click into this, on select, I've got these random functions. Like, don't worry about this. The specifics aren't key. The key thing is you could take these and wrap them up. Right now, it's going, do the university check, then go do this search user thing one after the other. You can just as easily as we did in Power Automate, just use something called concurrent, put it in here, wrap it up. I just deleted it. Concurrent sign. It's going to make me type it out. Go in here, and then all we have to do is add a comma, put another one, get out, and then add a final closing parentheses here, and then I'm done. And it's running at the same time. Kudos Charleston Sexton for showing me this in one of his Canvas app presentations. So yeah, it's just that simple to look out for. this type of a concept. All right. Next thing, though, those are easy wins, but let's get into slightly more complicated ones. Does anybody, and I'm sure we've got some people who've done this a lot of times, know how we can just get away from this whole apply to each business? What's a way that we can avoid it altogether? We got Piotr again. We got anyone else? Piotr, I'll give you the floor, but we got a battle of the bands between Stuart and Piotr. Okay, Piotr, you can go first.
And sometimes you can use select statement, because if you want to just how to call it, project some results from like a larger set of fields to smaller, and at the same time do some transformation on the fly, then one select can do the job.
That's great. Stuart, were you going to say something completely different?
Nope, same thing.
Oh, okay. Wow, fine. You guys end in a tie. So here, what we can do, what they're both talking about here, is instead of doing this nonsense right here, we can come up here and we can add an action that's called a select. And then once we have that picked out here, we go in here and we choose our source. Our source is going to be the original information that was passed in. So rather than typing this all out for you, I'm just going to show you where I already did this, because it's going to be like a cooking show. If I come into here, this is what they're talking about. I have this select. I'm passing the instructors into here. I have the name. I have the years at the company. I have the credentials, and then that's it. So I don't need this loop anymore at all, because I have this nice select statement that's literally doing the exact same thing as what this compose and append is doing. Now, this is really nice because we're avoiding the loop, and also we're saving a lot of code. I don't have this code anymore. I don't have this code anymore. And then I don't have this variable code anymore. If you can remove actions, you're going to make your code so much more performant. So what this ends up looking like is, in our final result here, I'm going to put the, instead of that variable of final instructors, I'm going to go in here and then I'm going to put faster loop. I think this is the one. Yeah, we'll try it out. Let's go run it live and see what happens. It could crash, it could not. And then in here this is where we actually do the calling of this. So let's make sure it's saved, and we're going to run it again. Cool, saved, resubmit. And in a second, we're also going to discuss why this is totally going to crash in a different context. All right, it ran, it did its job. Here's our instructor that is valid. Okay, great. And then this is not the one I wanted to do, the scheduler one. Let's manually test it out. Come on, run. Let's see if it did its thing. Cool, test failed. All right, let's see why it failed. Filter raise, but I got to get rid of that. Okay, I'm gonna pretend this wasn't here. Let me just get rid of that nonsense because it doesn't want to deal with it. And I want to show you exactly what happened. So here we have TOT instruction credentials status. Okay, right here the issue is there's one other key missing piece here. If you notice, our original array looked like this, right? We've got all our items in here. And we took that and we made a new array that looks like this. This is a problem. This violates, remember when I was talking about solid earlier? This violates the O principle, like closed, open for extension, closed for modification. If we look here, this looks convenient, but here's the problem. This flow's job was not to come into here. And suddenly, this flow's job was to just add the credential status. This job was not supposed to remove all this other stuff. I'll give you an example. If, we have Scott here. If Scott goes to the store with Josh Gillis, because that's what friends do, if they go to the store together and Scott says, hey, I just bought an egg and a marker. Hey, Josh, can you do me a favor? Oh, you can't see it. Josh, can you do me a favor? Go get a green marker. If when Josh comes back, the egg is gone, that's a problem. I don't expect you to take these items and then suddenly add the thing I needed you to, but remove everything else. No, what you want to do is preserve the original array. So what we can do is we can repurpose the select statement. So instead, what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to come into here, and then I'm going to do a different kind of select, and I call this select not dropping things. So what I did is I have the instructors here, and then in here, I'm going to go into my expressions, and I'm going to do something that's called add property. And then in the beginning, I have to pass in an item. That's just expected. What's the name of my property? And then it's TOT credential status. And then the last thing I need is to actually get the status that I'm working with. I think I have it under dynamic content here. Credential status. Cool. Come on. Save. All right. It's letting me click. Great. Click add. Beautiful. So, sweet. And then that's it. Now, watch very closely what's going to happen. If I were to run this piece again right here, let me see if I have an actual full run of it. You know what? I'll just hit back here, and we're just going to use a previous run, make it a lot simpler here. All right, here's a test that succeeded 3 minutes ago. Let me, actually, I don't have to resubmit because I had it, I know I saved it earlier, so check this out. Here we have our skip run, and then we have faster than a loop. Oh, and didn't go into here. All right, let's see if it's in final result. Come on. Oh, it's empty. All right, whatever. We're just going to rerun this. All right, it's going through here. It's stepping through all this stuff. Appending to the variable. It's doing all of this. What's in the variable? This is what we have. This is the old way. And this is the same thing that our select would be doing. But if we go into here and then we go into our select not dropping things, look what it did. Here's the original stuff that was passed in, right? And right here, I don't have my credential status, but look at the output. Once I come down here, I do have my credential status. Plus, I have all my other items. Now I know that if this flow is used later on downstream, I don't have to worry about my egg and marker example of dropping things. I have everything I gave to the flow, and I'm returning everything I had from the flow. So the key thing here is that there are two concepts. One, performance. This does all of the job that our whole for loop did earlier. Plus, it lets us preserve our original data following best practices. Okay, we're in the last 10 minutes. So let me show one more thing about performance. This one is kind of like my favorite ones. I've been having to dabble in Power BI recently. So right here, I have this Power BI report, and it is connecting to Azure Synapse. It's not going directly to Dataverse. If you want to check that out, I'm going to be posting on that next week. Chris Piasecki, he helped me with that video. It's a good time. So in here, I have two columns. I have this measure and a calculated column. Now, there should be a button there to explore this data. If we look right here, we have a calculated field and we have a measure. But as you saw, they're doing the same thing. Are there any Power BI people here who can tell me the difference between a calculated field and a measure? Anyone? I know we have some gurus who are being quiet.
Yeah, I can.
I thought I heard someone. Can you raise your hand? Who was that?
It's Shoti, me. Can you see that?
Oh, Soti, yes. Please speak up.
Yes. Calculated columns are created and they're stored in memory as such, whereas measures are only calculated on the fly, so they're much more performant, and you're much better doing measures than calculated columns.
Exactly. Way better than I could have explained it. So right here, calculator columns are stored in memory on the table, as opposed to measures are very cool because they're only calculated at runtime. When this report runs, it goes and figures this out. As opposed to calculated columns are constantly processing. Remember our for loop that we removed? It's more performant to remove the for loop because there's less code, less processing. Same thing here. Calculated columns are always processing. One thing to watch out for in terms of performance is how can we remove any kind of extra actions that are unnecessary here. All right, I'm going to pause here. We got like 9 minutes left. I'm happy to show more stuff, but I want to jump into some questions. Does anybody have any Q&A? Oh, wait, I have one more slide, or otherwise this feels disjointed that I didn't like wrap this up. Hold on. Come on. This black screen is great. Cool. All right. Yeah, the last one is that I want to talk about is you see the same thing if you're in Power Pages, if you're in Pro Code. You see there's just a million ways that you can optimize things, such as that would have been great if this just loaded when I started talking. All right. As you can tell by this example here in this JavaScript, so what it's doing is it's going through a for loop. And at the very end, instead of using a for loop, I'm using a map function. And the map function right there makes it so I can just use one function to do all of this instead of this giant for loop. Great.
Sorry to interrupt. We can't see your screen. It's black. We can see it now, though.
Right. All right. So this is what I was supposed to be showing you, but it's clearly not working. Were there any other little things I wanted to show? All right. Last thing is, thank you everybody for coming. If you want to join the Architects Accelerator, we have a pretty crazy pricing policy, which is we meet you where you are. I know some people are between jobs. I want to help you get a job so we can help make that happen. And if you mention Sarah Jones when you apply, you get a discount of at least $100, which I shouldn't have just said that off the top of my head because now I have to stick to what I just said. So yeah, please reach out for that. We got some great people in it. Parvez is in it. Anna Black's in it. So many awesome people. It's a great time. Cool. That's my sales pitch, and now I'll go back to the technical stuff. All right. So Sarah, should I do anything else? Should we go into Q&A?
Yeah, you can do what you want. Q&A is absolutely fine. Oh,
okay.
Why do you have an egg on screen too?
Why do you have an egg in front of you? I've been trying this habit of not eating at my desk, and I learned that if you stay just a little hungry, it keeps you more motivated to like get your work done. Like it helps you think faster. So I just put this hard-boiled egg ready to go, and then it also worked out for this presentation. When you have many parallel branches, where is the limit to stop? Just not to be throttled, probably depends on which. Yeah, Piotr, I haven't gone to the limit of it. I would say too many parallel branches is when it's too annoying to maintain. That's kind of my go-to rule is when it comes to performance and all that, I'm almost always going to choose maintenance and other developers understanding my code over making it run 2 seconds faster if it's not really necessary. Any other questions? All right, we got another one in here. No questions, boss session. You're welcome, Josh. Excited to talk to you. I think I'm talking to you tomorrow. Awesome. Anything else? Sweet. Okay, it looks like we're doing well. Great. Since we have 5 more minutes, I'm trying to think if there's like anything cool else I want to show you here. Does anybody want? All right, I'll show you this quick thing here. Have people played with AI Builder? Like I don't know if you guys have heard of this thing called Copilot yet. Has anyone worked with that at all? Is there a way to make a model-driven app directly in a can? Is there a way to make a model-driven app? Whoa, hold on. This question is insanely interesting. Is there a quick way to make a model-driven style app directly in a Canvas app? I'm not trying to be sarcastic or like a prick. The answer is you make a model-driven app. So in this case, I would avoid all attempts to like even use Canvas app here, especially when model-driven app is going to scale. It's going to take you so much further faster if you need that model-driven app experience. And if you're trying to not pay for premium licensing, because I know it's super expensive, go check out my video with Michael Morrison last week. He talks about ways to save on Dataverse. What was first, chicken or egg? What was the egg? Because you can't have an egg without a chicken. So there we go. But where did the egg come from? It came from a chicken. Well, I don't know what even the question is. So moving on. All right. So I have one more quick little thing here. It is in. Yeah, we'll show it. All right. So right here, I have going back to performance. I have this one, and I was surprised I haven't seen more videos on it. It's just this concept of how can we hit APIs faster. Obviously, I gave Azure Data Factory, which I feel like is a bazooka to kill a fly. I feel like that's way too much. But a lot of times you can repurpose, or not repurpose, but utilize the Graph API to kind of accomplish the same thing. So in here, what I've done is I'm getting a bunch of files from SharePoint. I'm doing some looping here, but you don't need this looping. I just made it so it's easier to understand the video. And then what I do is one batch request to send all this to Dataverse. I'm not doing a for loop and then sending a ton, like hitting the Dynamics API like 50 times. This is all hitting it once. So in this case, if I hit here and then just so y'all believe me, let me actually open up the, here we go. Here I have a series of tasks. I have 2 in here. I'm going to go manually run this flow real fast right here. Okay, it ran. Let's go to the flow runs page. And it should be good. Cool. Did you see that? In 8 seconds, it just sent a bunch of records to Dataverse. And I'm sure you don't believe me, because why would you? I didn't really show too much code. But if we go in here and then we hit, not that, and we hit refresh, boom, a bunch got created. That is one way to make your code a lot more performant, is utilize the Graph API instead of trying to loop and do the same thing with just that insert a Dataverse record. Now, the other one is Canvas apps. It's same principle. I ran into this a long time ago when so right here, I have this, let's go to the resume reviewer. If we look at this here, let's say I want to update, let's say Tony is amazing, Chica loves him, so we're going to give a 5 to him and everyone. So I have this set bulb. Now look closely. These stars are going to start blinking like Christmas. If we click this, you see it? You see, they're kind of moving at different times. It looks really cool, but that also means it's super not performant. Now watch here. I have these 2 stars here. I have this, if I put a 5 here and said set bulk once, you see that? It was real quick. It looked less cool, but it was much faster. The difference here is that same concept I talked about, which is avoid loops and performance. The way this one updates is, come on, where's on select? Am I crazy? There it is. Cool. I'm doing a for all. The first time I saw a developer using this for all is when I got a little suspicious and I was like, is there a better way to do it? And that's when I came across just kind of Googling around, knowing I should be looking for this, that, yeah, there is a better way to do it. It's just using a patch function. All right, now I don't want to break the rules of the format of VRTs. Now we're actually on time, so I'm going to stop sharing now. All right, Sarah, I didn't take up everyone's time. A minute longer.
There are no rules, really.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a very strict protocol.
No.
I'll throw in a link if you want to join that program. If you don't want to join that program, totally, all good. Let's connect on LinkedIn. I love connecting with the audience. Super appreciate everyone here and all the people who are content creators. I've seen all your stuff. It's awesome. Thank you for that. I've learned a lot.
Thanks again.
That's great.
Cheers.
Well done,
Bye-bye.
Sean.
Thanks, everybody. See you
everyone.
later.